Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Yay! Another ArtistWorks Check-in. So very excited to see everybody. And yes, you can always learn from us at ArtistWorks. So what we do today for these ArtistWorks Check-ins is we put up a thread on our forum at ArtistWorks and say, hey, we're going to meet this date. What questions do you have? Ask your questions and we will answer them. And that's what today is. So if you want to be able to ask questions and have your questions answered, definitely consider joining us at ArtistWorks. We also do try to open it up to the chat too, just because, so we try to get through questions as quick as we can so that we can then open it up. But
We should have time today.
yeah,
Sure.
but we do try to do, give you first dibs.
But yesterday,
students.
if you missed it, definitely check
Oh.
out Pull My Cutties Ukulele Club.
It was
with
great.
Us, at 4 strings at a time. It
Yeah.
was an amazing jam and
Yeah.
talk story with her.
With
It was
her
awesome.
and Halehaku Siburi.
Yes.
It was, I definitely, I don't know if it felt magical just because all of us braved a storm to get there. And so we were all like really in it together. I was actually surprised how many people came out yesterday because it was, I don't know if you have followed, but Hawaii yesterday had major rain. Kaneohe specifically got hit really hard. And if you look on Instagram and stuff and our news channels here, you'll see all of this insane footage of just tons of water. There was flash floods and all kinds of stuff. At one point, I think they shut down Like, so that because there was all of this debris from all of the waterfalls. Kaneohe was amazing when we were driving back home from town because the mountains just were full of waterfalls, and you just like, oh my gosh, this place is beautiful. So an amazing time, very special, and I was very glad that everybody was safe. We got there super early and we drove super slow because we knew it would be a little treacherous. So today's a lot nicer. Thankfully. So yay. Nice. And we see so many wonderful folks in the chat already. Thank you guys so much for all of your kind words.
A huge thank you to everyone who's been emailing us and saying how much you've liked the new kind of homework assignments that we've been doing with our welcome pages at ArtistWorks. That's been a lot of fun. And again, sometimes it is important to just go back to basics sometimes, work on your foundation, see if you picked up any bad habits, or actually,
is Craig's mic on? They said you sound kind of quiet.
Oh, I'm still a little under the weather, so I'm let me see. Let me raise this up just a hair. Usually Sarah's saying I'm too loud, but no, I really appreciate all of the emails that we've been getting about the new homework assignments that we've been doing. It's been really fun because again, sometimes it's important to go back to basics or look at our foundation and see if there's any bad habits we picked up, or not even just bad habits, but what I've loved in a couple of the recent VEs is seeing some people talk about how they have a better ear now. So now they're hearing, if their transitions are clean or not, right? So things like that has been really fun. Now we can do even more, right? So it's been really, really fun.
Yes. And we actually, I think the last assignment that we did, I actually I talk a little bit about reading music because there's a big update that we'll be filming hopefully after. It'll have to be in April, I think, after Summit, because we've got to get through our retreat coming up. Woo! I know we're going to see some of you guys at our Ukulele Retreat Hawaii. That's March 22nd through 26th, I believe. Very excited about that event. It's it's going to be very magical. I'm gathering all of the workshop materials, which is exciting. And then after that, April 18th, we have Ukulele Summit, which is a free event that is for our nonprofit puts on, and it is a blast. Workshops all day with ukulele and Olelo Hawaii at Windward Community College, our partners, and also I always want to say thank you so much, Office of Hawaiian Affairs, for sponsoring Ukulele Summit. All right. Oh, yes, Yvette in the chat said the VEs are important if you want to grow. So yes, video exchanges. So ArtistWorks, for those of you that don't know, we have pre-recorded lessons, right? And then if you have a question or a concern or you just want to show us your progress, you submit a video to us and we actually answer that video. And so you get this like personalized little lesson. And the great thing is it keeps all of them so that you can go back and rewatch them or watch how you've grown. Because a lot of times, I don't know about y'all, but sometimes I feel like I'm plateauing when actually I might not be. And you can go back and watch and be like, oh yeah, I have grown. Oh, okay. So what I'm doing is working. Okay, I'm not plateauing, because it's hard when you're in it. It's like when you were a kid and your parents' friends are like, oh, you've gotten so tall. And you're like, whatever. No, I haven't. I'm the same I've always been. Well, you're in it. So it's hard for you to be able to tell. So there you go. All right. Which question did you want to start with? Did you want to start with what I had written out, or did you want to start with the humidity?
Let's start with humidity.
Okay. So we had a question from somebody who had watched someone else's VE, which I think is awesome. He said in David's January VE, there was some talk about humidity and humidifiers. I would love for you to share more on this topic. I'm in Wisconsin, where current humidity is 34% indoors, and summer can be 90% and higher. So it's very big variance. Thank you for further education on this. So I think I'm going to hand it over to Craig because it's definitely like Craig has spent a lot of time working on this, and we lived in San Diego before, and San Diego is exceptionally dry, and so we had to work really hard to keep things humid, and then we moved here where it's super duper humid, and now we're trying to keep things dry. So with Craig having to deal with both sides of the spectrum, I will hand it to him.
Yeah, actually I'm going to keep you in frame because I'm not going to be looking at the camera when I'm working on the graphics stuff. So with that said, this guy, the little guys like this helps figure out where your humidity is in your particular room.
We've got a bunch of those.
Now, as we talk about humidity, the importance of humidity and wood in general is that too much, it's kind of like the three bears, right? The too much is bad, too little bit is bad. So you need that kind of
just
happy
right.
medium. Let me see. So for example, typically, when we asked Joe, where do you want our humidity to kind of be at to be safe for our instruments? Between 40 and 60% is typically where you want to be, which is a pretty big, range there. So 40 to 60 is not too bad. So kind of closer to 50 if possible. In San Diego, it dropped down to like 20 something sometimes, 30 something, which was really, really dry. And you could actually see it affect your ukulele. The wood in the neck would shrink because of how dry it was. So like the metal frets would stick out and actually cut you on your fingertips. You could see other ukulele the body would kind of compress a little bit or start having those waves because the pressure with the bridge is now pulling a weaker, top. And everything just gets so messed up. So humidity or the lack of humidity is super scary because things can just kind of get smushed. And so there are a couple different options. Let's see. So, that's the dehumidifier. We'll talk about that in a second. There's humidifiers like this. Don't get that guy. When you can see the smoke,
don't do it.
It ends up leaving like a layer of white.
So in San Diego,
residue.
Real quick story time. In San Diego, we had a humidifier like this. that had the white smoke, so you knew it was working, right? Well, we had a room that we would keep shut so that the room could stay proper temperature, because our humidity was like 20% or less in the apartment. So it was really, really low. So we did that, and it left this horrible white film on everything. Craig's cameras, because that was the studio, on the ukulele, on the floor, everywhere, this horrible white film. And I think that was like mineral deposits is what we ended up discovering. And so basically these don't have the proper filtration the way that, do you have a picture of what they should get, Craig? Okay. The Vornado.
You know what I mean?
The Vornado. That was what we got.
That was a good one.
It was such a good one. And you don't see anything coming out of it. None of that. And
again,
it worked.
You might be saying, hey, can I just get a bucket of water? Yes, you could just get a bucket of water.
You could.
But it's not controlled, where these guys will only add, the humidity into the air to a certain level, and then it stops.
And then it stops, yeah. Yeah.
So, with that said, that is one of the ways,
Yes.
But that means your room has to be sealed in to a certain extent to keep that humidity controlled. And that's not always possible. So we usually use these guys
in our cases.
So that we put the ukulele in a case, the ones that we don't leave out in this studio, and then we put these guys just laying on the strings,
or under the neck. The other thing too about those
they come with a little pouch too that you can hang. But to me, this was meant for guitar, and it gets kind of weird.
Oh yeah,
stick it into the ukulele.
Yeah.
But the beautiful thing about these guys is that it gives off humidity when it needs to, or it sucks it in if it needs to. So it keeps that range right where you want it. It's perfect. So this is kind of the set it and forget it, and then you eventually have to kind of change it.
I will say, for this, you want a hard case over a soft case. A soft case, but actually breathes more, and so they aren't as accurate in a soft case. So if you're doing this, use a hard case.
Honestly, if the question is one by the sound hole, one by the neck, one in a case, you'll be fine.
Yeah, the instrument's small enough.
Yeah, the case is small enough. You'll be fine with just the one.
Yeah.
And then there's also guys like this that we used to use that kind of rest in the middle of the two strings. But it was a little bit scary because you're filling that with water, and hopefully it's, capping it correctly and all that kind of stuff. So it is a little scary. This is nice. You just, like I said, set it and forget it.
Yeah.
Definitely worth it. The Kanilea ukulele comes in a soft case. So most soft cases are still decent because the thing is pretty small. You should be fine, unless you're doing extremes. Then a hard case that's a little more sealed. But to be honest, some of the soft cases now come with such great zippers.
Well,
it's compared to even some of the cheaper hard cases, is actually a better job. Keeping things sealed.
Air comes through the fabric, but the Kanilea cases are so padded that it isn't. I was thinking more like a gig bag. Don't just stick this in a gig bag.
There's a difference between.
But just, I know that we did a test and our fusion bags weren't as good at holding the humidity as the hard case, but it wasn't enough that we changed our cases. But I just wanted to give that.
So again, if your humidity is below 40%, you need to get a humidifier for either your room that you're keeping your instruments in, or just get those guys to put in cases to keep them nice and protected. Now, on Oahu here in Hawaii, especially in Manoa Valley, we run into the issue where it's too humid.
The opposite problem.
It could get about 80% in the studio sometimes. So a couple options that we do, we close things up and we run dehumidifiers in the room. Sometimes you turn on the AC and it helps dry things out as well. But again, when things are too saturated, your neck can expand, and even your wood here, because again, these guys, still absorb and still, are affected so much.
Think of them as a still humidity. Living.
So it is something that, too much is not good as well, and we forget that here in Hawaii too. So definitely keep an eye. Again, get one of those meters just to see where you're running and what you're at. I used to have tiny ones that I would stick in cases to kind of really maintain. But to me, like $20 spent on some of these, like those pouches, right, can save $1,500, $2,000 instrument.
Yeah.
So definitely keep that investment going. Yes.
You didn't mention Aaron's trick, did you? If you do
No,
have
so we were in Palm Springs for their event there, and Aaron Kime was there, and it was so dry that again our frets were sticking out. I couldn't even play the instrument because I was cutting myself every time I went down the neck. And his trick was just to get a hand towel from the bathroom at the hotel, soak it with water and wring it out so that there's no dripping water, but it's damp, right? So you wring it out as much as you can, but it's still wet. Place it on the neck board or on the neck, put it in the case, and overnight it felt good as new the next day. So in a pinch, for an emergency like that,
Yes.
that definitely was an amazing trick that we learned.
I was so impressed that it worked. It's not like I didn't believe Aaron, but it was like, I wonder. And yeah, that it totally worked and we could perform the next day. But yeah, those frets were really sharp. I'm trying to think if there were any other humidity stories. One other thing. So we have an ukulele that there's a crack in the back. It's very, very, very tiny. And we didn't know it was there until we went somewhere dry. And then we saw it. And then when we came home, the crack swole shut. So that's also something else, too, that you might discover if you go somewhere dry. And that's on the back of the instrument. But when you go back to somewhere wet, it swells shut and then it's gone. Again, I think of your ukulele as a living, breathing thing. And that I try to take care of it as such. Nice. Yay. Alrighty. So another question that came up is, should I do the improvisation question, Craig, now? Or do you want to do...
No.
Which one did you want to do next? Go ahead and...
Talk about the baritone.
Okay. So... all right, so we had a question about, I've been listening to people play baritone ukulele, and it sounds beautiful. Do you think it would be good to learn how to play it? It looks challenging. The strings are different because it's tuned different, and it's a bigger instrument, etc. So what do we think? So I love baritone. Baritone's great. Whether you're playing reentrant baritone, which is what we typically play, which is where you have the high D. So baritone tuning is D, G, B, E. Okay, it's like the top strings of the guitar. But you can play reentrant, which just means it's the high note on top. Craig has that. And then we also have linear, which is low D, and then it goes in that order. So Craig and I, when we first started doing the high G and high D tunings playing together, we thought in numbers. And we'll kind of demonstrate that here in a sec. So you don't need to, when you play baritone, you don't have to completely relearn all of your chords. You can actually still think in soprano tuning and play. The shapes are the same. You'll just be in a different key. So for example, if I was to, can that be put down a little bit? Because we're cutting off there we go. Sweet. So for example, I have my C major scale written at the top of this page, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. And then I have my numbers. So that's just your simple C, A minor, D minor, and G7. And Craig, I think you have the baritone next to you. And then all we would do is just think 1, 6, 2, 5, but Craig would be thinking in the key of F instead. So his chord shapes are going to be F, D minor, G minor, and C7 instead. Craig, go ahead and add to that if you wouldn't mind, please. It's either play or talk more about how you think about it for when you're playing. Yay! There we go. So I always love thinking in numbers. Numbers is really important because it'll allow you to speak more easily with others, even if you're thinking in a totally different key, which is like what we used to do. So, yes.
What is after C7?
That's a B for baritone, just as a reminder that that's baritone tuning.
Okay, so, again, long story short, the beautiful thing about this kind of thinking is, again, I'm thinking that I'm in F, right? So I'm playing 1, 6, 2, 5 in F, which means my F, D minor, G minor, and C7. But if Sarah was to play her, let me see if I can do this. Let's do that. Okay, and I'll try to squeeze it so that you can see my hands.
There you go.
Okay, so again, just the first chord. So she's going to play C, hold C please. I'm going to play what I think of as F. The second chord, the sixth chord, I'm playing what I think looks like a D minor, right? And she's playing an actual A minor. So this is where it gets really cool because, again, we used to print out two different versions of the song. One with a high G tuning, one with a high D tuning. And we just follow our own music sheet. So we were playing baritone arrangements without thinking of the actual chord.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not looking at this, I'm playing C. Right? I'm in my head, I'm playing F.
Yeah. It's
So
a nice cheat.
It's a really fun cheat. And then eventually, as the more we played with it, then we got more time kind of thinking of the correct chord that we're actually playing on the baritone. But this is such a brilliant instant way of kind of playing with the baritone without redoing anything in your head, but just printing it out in that kind of separate key. And what the great thing is that we decided to do, instead of playing an actual baritone size instrument, we created a string set that fits on a tenor scale that is a baritone tuned. So that way we don't, again, it furthers that trick of thinking we're in a different key because I'm not playing gigantic baritone frets or shapes, right? And having that stretch, it still feels like a tenor. So that way it really helped kept that illusion alive.
Yes, and the other part too is when in performances we switch instruments, and sometimes takes me a minute if I switch scales of instruments. It'll take me a minute to readjust my hand. So, for example, if I was to switch from playing tenor to soprano, if I'm doing a chord melody, I might overshoot because the scale's smaller. Well, baritone, I will undershoot because baritone's a slightly longer neck, and I will probably miss the first couple of chords because I have to readjust. Once I readjust, I'm fine, but then we switch instruments back, and I got to readjust again. So for ease, it just made sense for us to just make our tenor ukulele be tuned baritone, and that's what we do. Or re-entrant baritone. So what I recommend if you're wanting to play baritone is play all the things you already know and love without like naming your chords. Just play everything you know and love on that new baritone tuning. Listen to how it sounds. Then maybe sort out, well, what key am I really playing in? But the fact that you can actually just play everything you already do, and it will still sound great because the shapes that you are playing are still the same shapes. It's just technically you're in a new key. So keep that in mind. Also, the other thing I want to add to that as far as our lessons go is if you're playing linear baritone tuning, because we actually did have somebody ask the question about like, I'd like to learn more about linear tuning and accompanying people with linear tuning. You can use the low G lessons that we have on ArtistWorks to help you with that, because a lot of those ideas apply whether it's baritone linear tuning or low G tuning for your soprano ukulele. A lot of the concepts are still the same because I have a baseline thing using 1-6-2-5s with that low G. I've got different picking patterns for your low G, your different scales because you can reach more notes. with the low G, as well as there's a comping lesson that I give using the song All of Me, where I talk about, utilizing in being mindful of that low G string, or if you're playing baritone, that low D string, when you're strumming behind somebody. Or you can go all in and you can really, hammer it in and give them some little bass-liney things while you play. So just food for thought as in regards to baritone. Try it out. It also gives you another reason to maybe pick up another ukulele. You could get a tenor ukulele and put like our string sets on it, or there's others. I think there's D'Addario also has. No, it's not. It's not D'Addario. It's Aquila that also has a high D set, because that was the only one you could find for a long time for tenor specifically. You can't just put baritone strings on your tenor ukulele because it's going to be really floppy. So yeah. And actually, let's go ahead and move on to the linear accompaniment. How would you accompany somebody question, since we're kind of there already? So there's a few different things. Let me grab. Do you want to start, or do you want me to start on this, Craig?
You can do your low G, that's fine.
Okay, let me grab the low G.
And definitely describe what you're thinking of as an accompaniment.
This is sort of covered in the low G lesson. But basically, especially if I'm doing, something where I'm doing something simple like this. You can hear the low G, but it's not overpowering everything. Because when I'm strumming, and I'm using right now I'm using the pad of my thumb. You can also use your index, and this is in the lesson. But notice how the low G isn't overpowering, even if I have an open string. So what's happening is when I go to strum with a low G ukulele, I actually will try to avoid the string in this rotation. What ends up happening is I gently clip that string with my finger, so that instead of like that, where I'm going, let me do the same chords. So that's me trying not really hard not to, whatever, right? Where I've got that low G just really ringing out and it's not that pleasant. Whereas I will try to play more gently, and I'm aiming for the C string when I'm strumming, so that I gently touch this string. So it's a lighter touch. So my strum is completely different when I play low G versus a high G or a linear tuning. So there's that I'm thinking about, because I don't want to overpower the person that's playing. Now, maybe there's something where I'm playing and I'm doing...
Describe what you're talking about as an accompaniment. Like, what does that mean?
So I just mentioned I'm not overpowering the person with that low G string, because that will be very distracting.
For people who don't understand an accompaniment, what does that mean? You're playing with others? You're playing...
Oh, yes, playing with others. So accompanying means that you're playing with somebody else. Sorry, I didn't...
As in the background or the lead? You got to explain a little, because some people don't...
Okay.
Realize.
You can also feel free to jump in and explain too, Craig. It doesn't have to come just from me. So for accompanying someone, I'm referring to you are the rhythm player. So the big thing that was, if you're only playing with two people, this is my own personal philosophy, my own personal feeling. When you're playing with somebody else, somebody's got to hold down the rhythm. Otherwise, things will fall apart. You've got to make sure that there is, the groove. If you don't have a groove or the rhythm of the song or the pulse of the song, just like a pulse for you, if you lose your pulse, you cease to exist. If the song loses its pulse, the song ceases to exist. So really make sure that you sort of, that person is assigned. Generally, the linear tuned person it doesn't always have to be this way, but a lot of times if I'm playing low G with someone, I'm probably going to be playing rhythm, and I'm going to keep the pulse of the song. Of course, I can solo, but if I'm soloing, that means that whoever is playing with me needs to then pick up that pulse and keep it going. So keep that in mind. So, and you can keep the pulse by doing what I was doing earlier, which is sort of that Freddie Green style of just 4 on the floor, just playing what needs to be played, so that you can make sure that it stays the same the whole time. And the people are, he can play, he can do whatever he needs to do over it. Versus I could always do something like, that still can keep the pulse. And, you know, Craig can do whatever he wants over it. Right? And that was me doing more finger picking. But again, for me, when I accompany someone, I try to just be consistent so that I can help lift them up and give them a good foundation so they can do what they need to do over it. Same with vocals. If you're playing ukulele and you're singing, whatever you're doing here with your ukulele needs to enhance your vocals and enhance the story. I had a thought and I just lost it. The other thing you also need to do, which I think Craig was probably going to go more into, is listening to the people around you, listening to who you're playing with, because you might change what you are doing based on something you hear the other person do. Maybe you hear a co-rhythmic element that they do, so you copy it for a second in your own strumming or in your own arpeggiation, and that's something else to also consider too, whenever you are when you are accompanying somebody else. So there's another word for it called comping. You hear that more in sort of the jazz world, and the word comping, I think of it as complementing. You want to complement what the other person is doing. It's just like having a conversation. There's an ebb and a flow to the conversation, and you don't talk over them. You know, I will say something and then Craig will say something, and vice versa. So that's my main 2 cents about it and there's multiple ways that you can get the job done. And as I mentioned, I outlined several lessons that you can do that too.
So one of the things and they brought up specifically playing baritone ukulele as well.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to lay down just some rhythm with the baritone tuned instrument, and we're going to try a couple things, and Sarah's just going to noodle how she feels, and listen. I'm gonna start simple. I'll make things a little more complicated, and I'll kind of talk a little bit about some of the things I'm going to change, but it's going to either make things a little bit easier or harder for Sarah as we go along. You can kind of hear it as well. So let's say we're doing something like that. Which is okay, right? One of the hard things about a baritone, though, is that to me it's not going to ever be as clean as like a tenor or a soprano strum. As the notes get a little bit lower, it gets a little bit more mushy. So I might change it up so that it's not as of a mushy background for her to solo over. I'm going to do maybe something look how much space opened up instantly for her, right? You could actually hear way more of what she was doing. I still have that same kind of vibe, right? Going back to the strum. Right, see how much more mushy that is. Stay the same chords. And Sarah's going to just pause and listen a little bit. And and see where she's gonna add to that. So one of the things too, what we love about the difference in tuning is typically if I'm down here, Sarah can still be on this part of her neck, but because of the difference tuning, they're not going to be fighting over those same notes. So already we have that separation.
Yeah.
Even when we tried, arranging stuff with high G, low G, there wasn't enough separation to really kind of hone in on the different things we were doing. So this is again a really great reason why we went ahead with kind of arranging our sound to be a baritone and a high G. Now, as you notice, again, the strum is a little bit mushy, so I changed to like a little bit more of a picking. I can even change that more, giving a little bit more difference in some of the rhythm just to create a different vibe. Same chords. Let's say I'm doing like, let me do something else. There we go.
Oh, I'm a little out of tune, or somebody's out of tune a little bit. That's all right.
But notice how her attack on her phrasing changed. Once I went a little bit mellow, again, this is where we talk about having a conversation and listening to what each other are doing. And again, you throw 2 or 3 more people with a bass, another guitar, another ukulele, and all of a sudden you have all these layers that are happening.
Yeah.
Right. So yes, you're holding down the rhythm, as an accompaniment, but at the same time, you control so much of the sound because typically we're gonna riff over whatever kind of ideas that we hear in the rhythm player. We kind of go from there. Yes, there's a little bit more back and forth. Like if I hear her going off on something else, I might mimic that. But for the most part, we're gonna adapt to whatever the rhythm is doing. That's why you can. When we talk about musicians, there are some people who are just brilliant background players, and they create space and they create movement so that the lead has so many ideas to play off of, and they don't get as much of the spotlight, but they enhance that lead. They enhance those other players too, and the whole overall sound is not as flashy, but it's so dang important. So
I feel like
amazing.
Calais Gamial's one of those players. Yes, he's a monster. He can play amazing, but I feel like he really does an amazing job accompanying people because he's a great listener.
Calais, Real Montgomery, even.
Oh yeah.
Just, oh my gosh! Again, another guy who just knows what to do to make whoever he's playing with that much better.
Yeah.
Like it's just. That's the cool stuff, and that's who you want to play with on stage. Like these guys that know how to play with others.
I really like playing with Herb too, because Herb is solid. Like where the pulse is, and he's not trying to be fancy. He's really just he's there to support you, and you feel it, and that's something that's really nice.
Play the progression.
In C.
I don't whatever.
That's what we've been doing.
So, again, if you look at albums and you look at bands that play together, you know, a lot of times too, they're not always strumming, you know, at the same time, right? A lot of times you'll hear, you know, right? Or it's little fills, and I keep going, and you can, you know, speed up the give me more upbeat kind of, so even if you're a lead or you're thinking about, again, how can I enhance our group's sound? You know, some things you could do is like little. Or I'm not, again, mimicking a strum. I'm trying to find space to hit, even if it's like one note. Keep on, please. Maybe. So again, I'm playing with the rhythm. I'm playing with, you know, a phrase that can be recalled and create patterns. And even with just, you know, one or two notes, you can do so much with that. And again, I cannot stress enough how much time a lot of us spent with a tape recorder recording songs from the radio, playing them back, and trying to mimic fills or create our own. But in actuality, especially when you're playing in a band, you're not always going to be strumming the whole time through, and there's beauty behind just those little bits and pieces that you're kind of adding to enhance the sound, right? So when you're arranging for a duo or a trio, you know, don't forget you can take some space back, and then you can come in, you know, and have like a big chorus all together. But a lot of times you don't have to just keep adding, you know, with the different strums and whatnot.
Yeah, and you don't have to be Freddie Green. Freddie Green's that just like chunk, 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 chunk. You don't have to do that. It's helpful for two people, but
what's crazy about that too is like you can still do the chunk, 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 but once you start doing like really fleshed out voicings, it has a whole new.
Well, yeah, that's
it's so cool. Like again,
so it depends. It also depends on what style of music you're playing too. So what Craig is talking about is like. The cool thing about just that chunka 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 is if you're playing some fun voicings and stuff and like giving things color that way, you're keeping your pulse, but you're adding color that then the soloist is listening and going, ooh, that was, and they might even take a note from a piece of your color to say that they heard what you said, right? Like if I'm playing something and I'm doing something like this, and then I do this. And I throw in this magical note, right? Because it helps lead me. It's a voice leading thing. It leads me up to my next voicing. But Craig might hear that, and the next time he knows that we're like going through that phrase again, he may in his solo hammer that note because he knows that I'm gonna sharp that 5 again because it was a cool sound and he wants me to know he heard it.
Yeah. So, and again, I'm gonna keep saying this all year. All right, 2026. This is the year. That we nail down our foundation, because nothing is more frustrating than trying to do all, you know, these fancy things, but if our foundation in the sense of like our basic chords, we can't do them cleanly, we can't do them efficiently, we can't do them with some speed, it doesn't matter. We have to get that down first, right? So, you know, I'm gonna be hammering this all year. Nail down your foundation first, and then all of this other stuff comes so much easier and faster. And again, you're training your ear as well while you're doing this. Okay, so you're practicing with intent, right? And you're gonna really hone in on those transitions this year.
I want to add to that, Craig. So somebody in the chat mentioned like, well, I can play like the melodies of Blue Moon and this and that, like just fine, but I can't come up with my own solo. So again, thinking of foundation, whatever song you're playing, you better be able to play that melody forward and backward. And in fact, that's how you start your solo. You start changing notes from that melody. I think that's Craig and I were actually discussing this earlier about like the soloing strategies, because there's so many different strategies depending on what it is you're trying to accomplish. Because one of the questions that we got was in improvising, when I play a 1-6-2-5 chord progression, which is similar to what I've been playing. I've done 1-6-2-5 and 1-6-4-5s today. That the demonstrating how you would incorporate arpeggios. Arpeggios are another way that you can try to solo. And I'll get into that in a second. But if you know the melody of a song really well, then start with that as your solo and change a few notes, and that's something that you can practice and rehearse too. When you start soloing, you may not be comfortable enough to do something on the spot, right? But you can always go back to the melody. Your listener will always appreciate hearing some of the melody or all of the melody because it's something they recognize. How many of us love listening to free jazz? Raise your hands. There's probably only like 2 of you, right? I don't like listening to free jazz. It's fun to play because it's all about the cerebral stuff and like listening. But it's, to me as a listener, not as much fun. I would much rather listen to someone like Nat King Cole solo because he always brings me back to the melody and and he plays beautifully.
And I feel like a lot of the Hawaii pop music stuff, like the solos, they'll play through the melody first and then they'll go off.
Right, because they establish the melody. That's the other thing with soloing too, is like establish the tune first. Establish that so that when you leave it, people are happy to follow you because they know where you're going. Versus like what I was doing with Craig earlier was me just like noodling. That's not as fun to listen to me personally. But again, it's something that you can totally do. So start with your melody. It's a great way to start soloing. And once you feel comfortable, you can start noodling a little bit within your melody. And then that's how you start when you practice, even something simple like this. I'm going to do it again. I changed it slightly. You were willing to go on that journey with me for Mary Had a Little Lamb because I established our melody and then I did a little changing.
But you also ended back on the melody too.
Yes, I brought you home.
It just didn't fly off, right?
Yes.
And it was gone, but you came back.
And that was me using 1, 2, 3. I was using 3 notes. That was my solo. It was 3 notes. So again, you don't have to play all the notes, right? And that goes to the arpeggio question, right? So what does that mean? So an arpeggio is when you play notes from your chords, basically singly, not just strumming the chord. So you would, C, E, G, C. Or C, excuse me, I was totally going to A, which is a C6 arpeggio. So playing notes from your chords. And so the first thing you have to do, and I'm simplifying this question right now because there's more lessons coming that I think I can dive more deeply into as far as linking your arpeggios and stuff like that. But basically, if you know where those notes are on your fretboard, and usually they're under your finger somewhere if you're holding the chord already, you can actually create solos based on that. So for example, I've got a C chord, right? So if there's a C chord being played, could you just strum C for me, Craig, for a little bit? Yeah, beautiful, right? So and I'm playing low G right now, but something applies. So I have my C, right? I have an E, I have a G, a C. all under this shape really easy. There's a G there for that. Those are all safe notes. Thank you, Craig. Those are all safe notes that I can totally play. Right? Or I could try, starting something where I'm going. That's me also arpeggiating, but I started on the third note of my chord. Oh, I slid, actually. I totally cheated, but. So 3, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1, as far as like notes that I'm playing. For my next chord's A minor. That's actually really similar to my C major chord. It just has an A, so it's A, C, E. So I could do, there's an A note here, there's my A note here, there's an A note there, right? And then of course my C and E, these two strings, or I can play that same phrase, right? So I have C, and then the A, right? And then you have your D minor if I'm doing a 1, 6, 2, 5. Oh, I added the 7, sorry. So try to keep it. Now I'm not landing on the 1 there. I'm landing on a different note within it. I started on that 1, my D minor. Okay? And then G7. So those notes, right, are all safe notes within my G7. If I'm playing low G, I have those extra notes. And being able to know where those notes are at any given point and putting them all together, there's a couple different, there's a lot you can unpack when you're working with arpeggios and trying to find ways to link them together. There's an example that I always like to go to because I feel like it's a great sort of starter in this position of that's based off of 3, 6, but with an A7, 2, and 5. And that's all just, you can hear the key, the chord changes because I'm trying to pick notes that are a half step away when I'm going through it. So my E, I started on the root. That's my A7 outline. I'm outlining that chord, right? This guy. And then going through with the D. For G7, right?
It's literally a chord.
Yeah.
That you're just hitting one note at a time, pretty much.
Right.
That's all.
And you're thinking, but the key is thinking about like what note makes the difference between your chord changes so that you hear the change happen. So I'm deliberately trying to pick notes that are a half step away. You don't always have that luxury. Like if you're using regular old A minor and I'm trying to do that, I can't go to C sharp because there's no C sharp in my A minor chord. So maybe I would do, and I might actually land on the C so that my major 7, so I have this note from my E minor or major 7 from the C chord. And I would start here. Yeah.
This is one of the deeper questions.
But yeah. But I don't want to go too intense on it. But this is something we can do VEs, Robert, on this. And we can go through back and forth and trade with backing tracks and stuff. But this is something that there's many approaches that you can take with this. So, and for soloing, if you've never soloed before, as we mentioned earlier, learn the melody, learn it backwards, learn it inside out so that you could at any point pick up your instrument and be able to play your melody. Then start fiddling with the melody a little bit.
Okay, so let's say you have
that's like the easiest.
A 3-note melody, right?
Yeah.
What do they start to add after that? You can play with timing. You can play with techniques like sliding and hammer-ons and pull-offs into those notes.
Yep. Going a half step above or below. Mm-hmm. Even if that note isn't a correct note from the scale of the key you're in, it still will work and sound good. But rhythm, that's actually something that I think it's overlooked a lot. Everybody focuses a lot on adding all of the notes. But if you listen to someone like Abe Lagrimas Jr. play, his first instrument is the drums. And his solos, part of, I think, what makes his solos so tasteful aren't just his note choices. He makes very specific rhythmic choices that are so delicious to listen to.
But he still plays all the notes.
He also does. I also do. My nickname for him is Abe, all the notes Lagrimas Jr. But again, listen rhythmically. And what I mean by that is if you've got a backing track on of, even if it's something this guy, right? Mute your strings and start trying to create something rhythmic that sounds cool. How do you think drummers in particular, like they don't have all of these notes to pick from, but yet they can create some really cool solos. You can do that and you don't need notes. Right? Or even like I guess, Craig, if you wouldn't mind playing some chords for me for a second. I don't care what you play because I'm not going to play any notes. Right? Like I'm doing super simple stuff right there. Hitting my instrument a little bit, doing some scratches. It's not the most inventive stuff in the world, but it still is something that adds interest to your song. And that's something that you can start thinking about. And singing, I also find really helpful. Like I might put on a track or ask, because I can't always say, Craig, can you please play this so I can sing over it? Right? So I might put on a track so that I can sing a solo. And then maybe I'll start thinking of different rhythmic-y things. We were watching Dizzy Gillespie the other day. And he was doing some really cool vocal scatting, and it was rhythmic it was very rhythmic based with what he was doing. So
everything makes a difference.
Yeah.
Right? Like, for example, I mean, even just like as Sarah says, even these in-between things can be used in rhythm. Like, a little bit harder with one finger, but easy again, utilizing everything at your disposal to create patterns, to create these hits in between is not always about the notes that ring. Mm-hmm. Right?
the texture you make adds a lot.
Yeah, so that's where the fun stuff, you get to be so experimental. But part of it is a lot of us hear these rhythms in our head. We just don't know how to kind of translate it to the ukulele sometimes. So part of it is just going with it and seeing, okay, I like that rhythm here, but I don't want it to be, rung out. So I want to kind of, do that mute. Or sometimes I want a little bit of that kind of ringing out. So I'll let that one note ring a little bit more.
Because you want to create tension or whatever.
Let's try it one more time. It's a little bit harder. So it's squeezing when I want everything to ring, and then muting the rest of the strings. So again, even we learn every time we play. There's always little things that you experiment and try to keep pushing forward, and some of the best things that we've ever done come from mistakes. And we're like, wow, what was that? What did we just
play
do?
that again?
We try
play
to
that
figure
again.
That out. So again, that's the beautiful thing about art, right? Because there's no right or wrong, and things that you create, that's your version of that.
Now, there's two quick things that I want to talk about. One, somebody said using notes from the chords. Like I get that, but I don't. But when to add color is confusing. So it's. what I would say is start with your safest colors first. So for example, if there's a minor chord, add the minor 7th note. So that, like for example, D minor, you can start adding in the C note. That will sound nice. It's a piece of color that you can always rely on that's going to sound good. If you are playing a major chord, add the major 6th note. So if I'm playing a C6 or C chord, I would add the A note to that arpeggio because that note is always going to be a safe note that I can add in there. And it's totally fine. Dominant 7 chords, add the 9th note. That will generally sound good. And start with those safer ones first before you start adding in. Or you can just start adding random notes and see what you like. Because that's actually like a lot of how I figured some stuff out is I was like, oh, I like how that sounds. And that was from me noodling and kind of playing around and playing notes that sounded terrible and going a half step in either up or down from the bad note that I played or what I considered a bad note, because all notes are great. And I was on something that sounded good. So knowing the notes of your main major scale, whatever key you're in, and then being able to alter those notes accordingly. And then another question was, how do I use my scales vertically and horizontally for soloing? So you have to actually practice your scales. We can't answer this question right now because we only have 0 minutes left. But I'm sorry, Carol, but it's a good question. So one thing to start thinking about that I'll leave you with that is something I learned from Abe Lagrimas that I thought was really, or Abe Lagrimas Jr. that I thought was really great is when you are trying to actually, instead of just doing, your scale going across, you can try to do your scale going up and over. And in this, that means you're playing 3 to 4 notes on each string. So C, D, E, F, and then maybe I play my G here and then move over to A here. Right? And I can almost go all the way up. And then practicing that way allows me to then learn my notes going up and across my strings. And I thought that was something if you watch Abe play, he does a lot of that where he's actually going up and across as opposed to just going across.
Yeah, but again, if you ever have 5 minutes to spare, just do scales up and down, move it up to the D, E, etc.
Yep.
All of that time, it gets your fingers so accustomed to the fretboard. It's just, again, the reason why we always push scales whenever you have a few moments.
Yeah. Oh, good, Carol. I'm so glad that that my little 2-second answer to that for a question that's actually pretty large was able to work for you. Yeah. So try to put 4 to 5 notes, not just 3 to 4, like 4 to 5 notes on one string and move it across accordingly. There's no right or wrong way. Just give it a shot and you'll kind of see what happens. And that also forces you to learn your notes up the neck a lot better too, which I think is pretty great. So, yay!
All right. So, and I think we'll have a new homework assignment for you guys next weekend, which will be a lot of fun, actually. I'm excited for this one. And keep the VEs coming.
Yes. I wanted to add, I don't think we're going to have a March check-in. I think that's one thing that we had it on the calendar, but I think we might be skipping it because of the retreat.
Yeah. And we might actually go live during the retreat for a few things, so keep an eye on this channel.
Yeah. Awesome.
Should be a lot of fun.
Thank you guys so much for joining us for this check-in. It was very fun kind of talking about solos and tunings and all that great stuff. So thank you guys for always asking wonderful questions. And as Craig said, keep those VEs coming and we will see you guys online.
Have a great Sunday, everyone.
Aloha.
Thank you so much for joining us live.
Yay.